the iconic morning show The View was once a pioneer, a place where diverse voices clashed in lively debates that drew viewers by the millions. But now, it feels like the show is teetering on the edge of irrelevance, its coffee table discussions losing the spark that made it a daytime staple. At the center of the storm is Sunny Hostin, a polarizing figure whose presence seems to stir both ratings and controversy in equal measure. Yet, this isn't just a story about Sunny, or even about The View. It's about what happens when entertainment, politics, and corporate agendas collide in a culture grappling with rapid change. Sunny Hostin has always been a lightning rod for strong opinions. Her unwavering stance on hot-button issues and her outspoken personality make her both a hero to some and a villain to others. While she wields her platform as a tool to champion causes like diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, her approach has sparked as much division as it has dialogue. DEI, once heralded as a progressive corporate imperative, has become a battleground in itself, and Sunny has turned it into a crusade. For her critics, her methods come across as combative, more suited to provoking outrage than fostering understanding. This brings us to the heart of The View. The show has always thrived on drama. It's practically the lifeblood of its format. Loud debates, clashing personalities, and the occasional passive-aggressive remark have been the keys to its success. But lately, the dynamic has shifted. Instead of lively debates that spark thought, the show feels more like an echo chamber where ideas are batted around without resolution. Some say the problem is Sunny herself. Others argue the format has grown stale in a world moving toward more dynamic, unfiltered platforms like podcasts and YouTube. Behind the scenes, whispers of change are growing louder. ABC, which oversees The View, is reportedly crafting a bold strategy to shake things up, replacing Sunny with someone willing to stand up to dominant voices like Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar. The idea is simple: inject conflict into the show's fabric to reignite audience interest. The network seems to believe that what the show needs isn't more consensus, but more chaos. After all, nothing screams must-see TV like the prospect of grown adults passionately clashing over their morning coffee. Meanwhile, Sunny's critics accuse her of taking a defensive stance that borders on defiance. She recently lamented that America is mean and judgmental, a sentiment many found ironic coming from a co-host on a show that thrives on judgmental hot takes. Her detractors argue that while she decries the harshness of public opinion, she often dishes out her own controversial commentary with little room for rebuttal. This tension has made her a magnet for backlash, with her statements often labeled inflammatory or out of touch. In response to the criticism, Sunny has doubled down, claiming her words are taken out of context. It's a defense we've all used at one point, but for Sunny, these moments seem to be piling up like a Jenga tower on the verge of collapse. One moment, she's championing causes she believes in with fierce conviction. The next, she's dismissing the very people she seeks to engage, as when she questioned why certain Latino voters leaned heavily Republican in border districts. Her analysis came across as dismissive to some, missing the nuance of complex local issues like the border crisis, a subject those communities had been vocal about for years. Sunny's struggle mirrors a larger cultural shift playing out across industries. DEI, once the golden child of corporate strategy, has become a contentious topic. Some companies, like Jaguar, have leaned heavily into these initiatives, only to face public criticism and financial setbacks. Others are quietly retreating, abandoning diversity efforts they once championed. It's a tale of two strategies, one group betting on progress, the other retreating to safer, familiar ground. For figures like Sunny, these battles aren't just theoretical. They play out in real time, on screen and in public discourse. The stakes are high for ABC. As traditional television fights to stay relevant in the age of digital content, the network is betting that a refreshed The View can win back viewers. The plan to replace Sunny isn't just about her polarizing presence. It's a signal that ABC is willing to take risks to preserve one of its longest-running franchises. But it also raises questions about the price of polarizing opinions in today's media landscape. Can a show that thrives on disagreement survive when the disagreements start alienating its core audience? Sunny's journey on The View isn't over, but the cracks in the show's foundation are becoming hard to ignore. Whether ABC's gamble pays off or backfires, one thing is clear. The View is at a crossroads, and Sunny Hostin is caught in the middle. As legacy media continues to evolve, the show's future may depend on whether it can adapt to a world that demands not just drama, but authenticity and genuine connection. In the end, The View remains a microcosm of larger societal battles, a place where ideas clash, tempers flare, and the ever-shifting tide of public opinion keeps everyone on their toes. Whether Sunny emerges as a resilient champion of her ideals or a casualty of an unforgiving industry, her story is a reminder that in the world of entertainment, the line between hero and villain is often razor-thin. Sunny Hostin's latest salvo in the ongoing controversy surrounding her presence on The View was a bold one. Doubling down on her defense, she pointed the finger at false narratives and, wait for it, bigotry. According to Sunny, the backlash wasn't her fault, it was society's. It was a classic deflection, a familiar play in today's cultural battleground. But just when you thought she might stop there, she dropped a political bombshell. Without naming names, she alluded to a looming figure who could rule for the next 4 years, her subtlety as absent as ever. The statement felt less like a defense and more like a provocation, a spark thrown onto an already roaring fire. As the drama unfolded, the chatter behind the scenes of The View grew louder. Sunny, sources suggested, was well aware of rumors about her potential removal. This wasn't just idle gossip. Whispers hinted that ABC was actively considering its options. Some speculated about a shakeup, possibly replacing Sunny with someone even more polarizing. Others floated the idea of the show's outright cancellation. While the latter seemed unlikely in the immediate future, the possibility loomed larger for 2025, with the show's ratings performing like a cat teetering on a Roomba, wildly unpredictable and increasingly unstable. Ironically, ABC's strategy to save the show might be what ultimately dooms it. The network's gamble appears to hinge on manufacturing conflict, banking on the belief that controversy sparks viewership. And while it might create a short-term bump, the approach feels unsustainable. Audiences aren't naive. They can sense when drama is being engineered for their consumption. Once that trust erodes, viewers tune out, taking the lifeblood of any show, its ratings, along with them. Sunny's polarizing presence on The View reflects a broader issue with public figures today. There's a growing tendency to drag politics into spaces where audiences aren't looking for them. Morning talk shows, traditionally a mix of lighthearted banter, topical debates, and relatable discussions, have increasingly become platforms for societal sermons. The problem? That's not what most viewers signed up for. They're looking for entertainment, a bit of news, or perhaps a distraction from their own lives. Instead, they're met with commentary that feels less like conversation and more like a lecture. And rather than reading the room, Sunny doubled down, placing the blame for her criticism squarely on the audience itself. It's a move we've seen more frequently in recent years, celebrities and corporate leaders rejecting accountability in favor of finger-pointing. If audiences don't agree with their message, they label the criticism as ignorance or intolerance. But here's the thing, telling your audience they're wrong isn't exactly a winning strategy. Pro tip? When viewers push back, yelling at them won't bring them back. Sunny's defense also leaned heavily into the narrative of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. By framing the backlash against her as part of a larger societal issue, she tied her criticism to a broader cultural conversation. It's a clever tactic, but a risky one. For starters, it assumes that her audience is aligned with her views, which, judging by the growing discontent, isn't the case. Worse, it conflates legitimate criticism of her behavior with a wholesale rejection of DEI principles. By doing so, she risks alienating even those who support diversity but don't necessarily agree with her methods or tone. Meanwhile, DEI itself has become a fraught topic in corporate America. Some companies, like Jaguar, remain steadfast in their commitment, while others are quietly retreating, hoping to avoid the spotlight. The issue isn't with DEI's principles, but with how they've been executed. Too often, companies have treated these initiatives as little more than a checklist, a performative gesture, rather than a meaningful change. Now, as backlash grows, Many are scrambling to adjust, torn between doubling down or backing off entirely. For Sunny, the clock is ticking. Whether she's ultimately replaced or not, it's clear her current approach isn't working. Instead of fostering productive dialogue, she's become a divisive figure whose presence on The View feels increasingly unsustainable. For ABC, the stakes couldn't be higher. If their plan to reignite interest with conflict backfires, the once iconic show might not survive the fallout. And for DEI initiatives in corporate spaces, the road ahead looks uncertain. Their success will depend not on lofty rhetoric or shallow gestures, but on meaningful, lasting commitments. The future of The View is murky, but one thing is certain: the days of simply coasting on past success are over.